Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to be walking through activity 5-4 titled Sharing a Folder with Simple File Sharing. This is from the MCSA Guide to Installing and Configuring Microsoft Windows Server 2012 R2. In my edition of the book, this activity begins at the bottom of page 166. I think this is going to be fairly short, just kind of showing you how to create shares. We'll get into a little bit of the rights with this activity. Well, my next video will be activity 5-5, sharing a folder with advanced sharing. We'll take a little bit deeper look into the sharing permissions. For this, I'm basically just going to get set up with a share. So I'm logged into my server. This is a virtual server through VMware. Using a virtual is great for a test environment if you want to try something out before you implement it live. A lot of the activities I do in my videos I wouldn't necessarily recommend for a live environment, at least not exactly the way I set them up in a video. This is just kind of to give an overview of how things work and how you can set things up. In a live environment, you might want to have permissions or controls set up a little bit differently to protect sensitive data or confidential material, things like that. But for the purpose of this video, we're creating a basic share, so it'll all be fairly straightforward. Obviously, for a shared folder, we need to have space on a physical hard drive. Even if that's on a virtual machine, I still need to have some form of space to hold data. So I've created this NTFS volume in a previous activity. I'll be using this volume for my shared folder for this video. So to begin, you just start by creating your folder. Let's say, I'm going to go ahead and call this Share YouTube. And so that creates the folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a document in here. YouTube doc admin. And we'll go ahead and add a little text by the admin user. Alright. So then we come back to our folder. We're going to right click on it and select Properties. And the first thing I want to do is come over and just very quickly take a look at the Security tab. We see the local administrators have full control, and local users have read and execute, list folder contents, and read. They don't have access to write, modify, or full control. They may have some special permissions. So let's go ahead and hit cancel on that. Or rather, let's go over to the sharing. So we can see that it is not shared currently. So this gets into the advanced sharing, which will be my next video. A basic share starts here. When you right click, you select share with, and you'll have a list of your local users, most likely. If you're in an Active Directory domain environment, it may not list all of your users, and in fact you probably have too many users to list here, so you wouldn't want it to do that anyways. Setting this up in an Active Directory environment isn't a whole lot different than this. But I think that will be a topic for another video, sharing with Active Directory, where we can take a look at automatically drive mapping or sharing shortcuts to shared folders for users, so they don't have to come and find ways to access it. It'll just be set up for them by the administrators. So we'll get into that in the future. For this video, we're going to select specific people to share with, and we see the administrators are selected by default. We're going to go ahead and add our test user, and we see that by default the original rights he has is only to read. We're going to add read write. Instead of just being able to read, he'll be able to write data here as well. And hit share. Here we get our address, or the path to the share. And if you have multiple shares, you can always select this to see the available shares on this machine. I have some from the other activities, but we're going to be focusing on the share for YouTube here. So I'm going to close that and hit done. And we see it here now. And let's go back into our properties and hop back into our sharing tab. And now we see that it's shared with this network path. So our user can type that network path in, I can think of 3 ways off the top of my head. One is to open a file explorer and type that address in. And so any user that has rights to it can type that address and see all of their shares. If they want to go to a specific share, they just select it and go directly into that shared folder. Another way is to use your run window with Windows key R and type the address in there. And I think even here it'll go and show the list of shares that you have access to. The third way is fairly common on Windows 7. When you're not in an Active Directory environment and you don't have everything mapped out and shortcutted nice and easy, you can type the address in here, or the network path, 410 server 1, and that backslash will show the list of shares available. So let's take a quick look at security. We see that our test user is set in there with full control. Let's go ahead and edit that. We're going to remove modify and full control. So he should be able to read and write and execute, but that will limit his ability to change or delete things. So let's go take a look with that user. So we'll use one of our three ways here. We see that share right there. That's not the one we want to access, so we'll delete that, and we'll come take a look at share for YouTube. And so there's our shared folder with the document created by the administrative user. First, we're going to see if we can create a new document. And so this user is actually restricted and can't even create anything here. But this user can come in and view anything that's placed into this share. I shouldn't be able to modify anything. It looks like it will let me change documents. It looks like it allowed me to create one. But it will not allow me to rename it. This also means I shouldn't be able to delete. And so we get an error when I try to delete anything. So that's part of the modify, is I don't have rights to delete or rename. But because I can write, I can come and add new data. So that way I can contribute, but I can't necessarily create entirely new files. I can go and modify existing files, but I can't delete any file. I can create, but then I can't rename anything. So that ties into the modify. So I can write to it, but I can't change what's been written, other than inside of a file where I can change some of the data within a file. So that's kind of a quick overview of basic sharing. In my next video, I'll get into advanced sharing with a little bit more focus on the permissions and rights. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.